All right, we should be recording in live, so have a special guest with me today. We have Nicole. A lot of you guys watching this probably know who she is from like the Facebook group and a lot of mutual friends and everything. Um, but this has been, I feel like this interview has been a long time coming, just from like all the progress obviously that you've made, but we've been trying to do this for the past month. And the first time we had it scheduled, you got sick. And then 2 weeks later, I got sick. And now we're here. And you guys watching obviously don't know this, but we almost like weren't able to record it because of the technical difficulties with the original software we were going to use. So, but we're here, which I'm super excited to have you come on here and just share your story and share where you got to where you are now because your journey has been so awesome for me to watch and see, and obviously your physical progress is just like blown me away and has blown a lot of other people away too. So um yeah, we have Nicole. So Nicole, go ahead and say hi and
Hello.
um uh and then kind of share a little bit about yourself too, like who you are, where you're from, what your life looks like, any fun facts about Nicole. So people who are watching this who don't really know you kind of get to know you a little bit there.
Oh man. Oh, where do I start? Well, I'm I guess first and foremost, I'm a mom. I've got four little boys, so my life is kind of crazy, I guess if that gives you any insight. It's like WrestleMania all the time, endless laundry. I mean, it's I don't know. It's a mom life. But I mean I'm in Ohio, so I'm from Ohio here. Um I am a nurse. And I had a little break there in between like nursing. I was a stay-at-home mom. Um and so kind of last year in January, I got back into the workforce. I had a lot of, some life changes that kind of precipitated, a lot of change for me too, actually. And that was kind of like, when I kind of found you here. But I mean, my daily life is, I work and I've got my kiddos half of the time, and then the other half of the time I'm in the gym. So, um, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Some fun facts about me. I've got a sourdough starter that is like my fifth child. I'm into sourdough, and I love being outside and gardening, and um, I don't know. I mean, I guess sometimes I don't really feel like I'm that very interesting. I'm just kind of, you know, just kind of me. But
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, well, definitely some interesting stuff in there. I mean, and we all have different parts that sometimes we don't think is that interesting, but other people like do, the sourdough stuff. And even like the four kids, like that's super exciting, right? You said, you have your hands full there. How old are your kids too? For everybody listening, like how old?
well, the oldest, I've got spring birthdays coming up, so that's like almost 9, and then I've got almost 7-year-old twins, and then my little guy's 3.
Yeah,
So.
so definitely your handful with all of that for sure. Especially twins. How was it having twins? My brother-in-law and his wife, they have twins. They're just like almost a year old now, like I think nine-ish months old. But
Mhm.
um, how was it your experience with twins? Did you find it easier than having like I guess one, probably not, but like maybe when they got older because they got to like play together a little bit more and entertain each other. Like that's kind of what I've heard. How did you feel about that?
Well, I do think more kids, I mean, it goes both ways because they play together more, but then they also like fight together more, and there's more, mass destruction
Yeah.
and mutiny around the house. But I mean, I feel like having twins is really amazing. I think it's like I try to wrap my brain around like, that they, like grew together. I don't know. It's pretty wild. They have very different personalities. One will go, play like Legos by himself, then the other one is like, hardcore, like full on, has to be engaged all the time. But I catch them sometimes. I mean, they do have really sweet relationship. It really is it's pretty neat. The fact that like I survived like nursing them both also, like
Yeah.
it's quite a process and a journey. But um yeah, it's pretty incredible and special, I think, to have the twins.
Yeah, that's really cool. And they always, I feel like you always hear stories about them having like a really special bond too as they get older, which is cool. Um, so I really wanted to bring you on to talk about like your where you kind of started before you joined coaching, and then what your journey has looked like throughout coaching, and kind of where you are now. Because, from when you started that first like week to now you're down like 22-ish pounds, like a little over 20 pounds, and even got close to, if not like basically hit 30 pounds down at one point. And we've gone through a muscle building phase, which I'm sure, we'll talk about that, which has just been like incredible. And like everybody that I've talked to who has seen the pictures of your transformation has just been like really blown away. So I want to dive into all of that too. So tell me or tell us like how did this journey kind of start for you even before you joined the program? Like, was your weight and your body composition something that like you struggled with for a long time throughout your life, or was it something new like during or right after kids? Like, kind of share like that story with us there.
Well, I mean, I was like a soccer player. I mean, I played sports in high school, and so like I feel like, at that time in my life I was pretty, fit. And then, during college, I mean, I think I stayed like kind of fit. I mean, I didn't really do very much, like structured physical activity, I guess, like into adulthood. I did run a half marathon one time. I was like super proud of that. And then I did have like some back issues. And so, really I didn't, stay active. I didn't keep running. And then after kids, obviously a lot changed. I mean, just, from like postpartum weight to like, lifestyle to eating, like handfuls of goldfish and top of like, I think some of that stress. Um, I kind of tend to be like a food person, and ice cream has always been my thing. And when I tell you that I was like getting ice cream every single day, that's not a lot. I was like, this frozen custard place is staying in business because of me going through the drive-through every day. But so I mean, and I did. I mean, I fluctuated a lot. I don't know if I could really tell you how much, like, if I never really got back to like my pre-child weight or like body composition. And I think things just sort of, snowballed for me over the years there. And I tried a lot of different like, diets, like, like the 17-day diet, and they're all like kind of restrictive, in nature. It's like, no carbs, for the certain period of time, which is like, I never could make it through like one full, cycle of anything. And, I mean, with that, it obviously just has a really big impact, like, or it did, like for me, kind of like psychologically and emotionally, just like with how, I felt about myself, and just not really feeling good, and trying things, but just never really able to make much progress. Um, and then, sometimes when, like I would try those things and then fail, then it's like a failure on top of everything else, which, kind of like, you know, has some more of that impact too. So, I never really did any other like coaching or, anything like that. I mean, it was more just, kind of trying some of those like fad diets, I think. Um, I did have, like, I do have like a bike. I got a bike and I was like starting to ride and stuff. And even with that, honestly, if I was doing that like, 3 or 4 times a week, I still, I mean, it was good for my cardio, but I wasn't really like seeing a whole lot of change. Um, and really, I mean, I found you because you coached, my good friend Becca. So like I knew of you and your program. And I can't remember when it was, but I did apply for one of your scholarships, and I got a spot, and I didn't take it at that time. Like I felt like I couldn't commit at that time, but it was like something that was kind of always in the back of my mind. And, really, before I joined you, like, 6 months prior to that, I mean, it was the heaviest that I had ever been. I look at pictures now and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, I really don't even know how I got there. So, I applied again and was able to, you know, get a scholarship spot again. And you really kind of I don't know, it was like the right time for what I needed to really kind of invest in myself. And I needed to create some change. And so I was, um, willing to take that risk.
Hmm.
Here I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I love all that. So it sounds like growing up in high school and even after, you didn't really struggle a ton with like your weight and your body composition. It seems like it kind of mostly started for you, like as you started having kids and all the
Mhm,
stressors that come along with that. Obviously, like the body changes that come with, being pregnant, having
mhm,
kids, and then nursing, and then
mhm,
doing that. I guess technically three times, but with,
mhm,
four different children, and dealing with all that. And um, uh, that was kind of what, like, that period of your time, in your life is when, you dealt with those
mhm.
body composition changes, gaining a little bit more weight than what you wanted to. And then it sounds like you tried a variety of things. What things did you try? Did you say you said some kind of diet? What was it?
The one was called the 17-day diet.
So what is that? I
I
don't know if I've ever heard of that one.
it was there was a book. It was, I mean, it was basically like no processed carbs um for 17 days. And I don't even really remember all of what was in it, but I know that I never made it through 17 days. I tried it a few times and I never could like get all the way through because it was just like so restrictive. And then I'd feel like I was like starving and then just sort of like binge.
Hmm. Yeah. And then, so cutting out basically like all processed carbs was one. Were there any others? Like, did you try like the, usual ones like low carb or keto at all, or intermittent fasting, or was that kind of like the big one that you tried?
That was really kind of the main one that I tried. I mean, I think like after I started having kids too, I just I mean, I think sometimes I can look at like patterns of myself with food and like I can kind of see that I can be unhealthy, like, or that I had a tendency to be unhealthy where it would be like I would just try to restrict, and like just not eat very much at all in an attempt to lose weight. But nothing else was like really structured besides that one.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And I hear that so many times from people too. Like, there's kind of like two different camps. One camp is like people who try all those diets that have like specific names and they have all these specific rules. And then other people try, well, like I know how to common sense eat quote unquote healthier. So that's what I'm going to try to do when I want to lose weight. I'm going to try to cut my food intake down or cut my portion size down or, eat
mhm.
more fruits and vegetables. And that's the approach they take. And because that's what, a lot of people say you need to do to lose weight, which like
Right.
there's some truth in some pieces to that, but there's also some things like more nuances and details that make that approach maybe not that great, where like you're eating healthy, you're cutting your portion sizes, you're eating less food, you feel like you're hungry all the time, but then like you're still not seeing, the changes that you want. Um, and I know you did mention too, like you were doing, some bike rides, I think, with the bike that you have, and so you were working out some, but you
Mhm.
weren't seeing the type of body composition change still.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything that was happening. I mean, again, I feel like it was good, like for my cardio,
Mhm.
but you know, yeah, I couldn't really seem to make anything happen.
Yeah. So you applied for the first scholarship, and I can't
Yeah.
remember when that was, what year. I think it was 2023, I'm assuming, when you applied for that first one. I think it was probably like a yearish before you actually signed up. So you applied for that one for, different reasons. You felt like it wasn't the right time or you couldn't, actually do it.
Hmm.
And I know we like went back and forth a lot, and I know you had seen obviously, Rebecca's transformation and have heard about the program from her. And like I knew you were going to see a lot of success with this, so I really wanted you to sign up at that time, and you
Yeah.
didn't, and it was a bummer for sure. But um, obviously, like there we came, like a year later, and you applied for another scholarship, and even that time, I think you were kind of on the fence a little bit too, if I'm not mistaken, and like you were kind of weighing out the pros and cons, like do I really want to do this? So kind of like take me to where you were, I guess, like in that moment before you ended up committing to coaching and you were thinking, I applied for this last year and I didn't do it, and now, I'm applying again. So obviously I haven't really seen progress during that time, but also this is kind of a scary commitment, maybe. Kind of like where was your head at there, and like what kind of feelings were you having when you were trying to decide, if you wanted to do this or not?
Well, I mean, I think like what you said, nailing it on the head is like the scary commitment. I mean, it's a big commitment, because I don't know, there's a financial investment piece, and so also like backing that up is like I better be willing to do it if I'm gonna, invest like this in it. I think, for me, I still had, kind of like a fear of failure almost too, again, just because, anything else that I had tried hadn't really worked out. And so this just felt like it was a different level of commitment and maybe intensity. And so, there was still that element of like, can I really do this? And I will be honest too. I mean, I think like, making the financial commitment is also a really big piece. I mean, there are always a million different things or reasons to kind of justify not, you know, investing money in yourself. And I guess I'm wording it that way now because, with my hindsight, 2020 now, like I see that, I mean, it is an investment in myself as opposed to just, what I mean, an expense. At that time, I think I was looking at it like, an expense. Can I afford this? Like, will it be worth it? So, I was in a place really where I needed to like really do something for myself, and create some change. And so I said, all right, let's do it. And then,
Uh,
and then I did. So,
yeah, no, I totally like agree that it's a lot of people when when they have the call with me and we're talking about getting started with coaching or not, in their head they view it like you said as an expense, like this is just one more thing I have to pay for,
mhm,
but they don't think about all of the things that you will gain from this by like actually doing it, and how much better you're going to feel, and how much more confident you're going to feel, and how much overall it's going to improve your life on a day-to-day or a weekly basis,
mhm,
from like you said, investing in yourself. Like you're investing in you becoming a healthier and better and more confident version of yourself. And I think something that was really big too that you said was just the fear of failure. And I think the financial piece and the fear of failure, they are kind of both connected too. Because I think if you could like see the future,
mhm.
and you were to be able to see like where you are now, like a year ago when you were debating on signing up, you probably wouldn't have really thought twice about it, like because
Right,
you knew that this is what the outcome would be. But
right,
obviously with anything, with coaching, where there's a level of you don't get the results still, even like unless you actually follow through and put in the work, it's
right,
that result's not necessarily guaranteed. Like there's some aspect of, obviously, like me as a coach or us as coaches, like we have to be able to give you the right plan for you to see results in your body to change. So like there's a lot on us to design a plan that's right for you, to be there the right way for support, but also there's like some on you obviously to like execute the plan for those results to actually happen the right way. And I think people decide to not invest in themselves and kind of trick themselves into thinking, oh, I just can't really afford this. Like, I can't really fit it into my budget. When really you could, if you knew you were going to follow through and actually get this result at the end of the 6 months or year, or however long. But it's that uncertainty and that fear of you not following through that kind of
right,
um, causes you not to. And it's sucks like being that being the reason, because that's something that you can never actually get over until you actually pull the trigger and do it and experience it, because there's no way for you to know what the result could be 6 months from now unless you actually like take the leap and put in the work to get there.
right, right. And I mean, I mean, undersold myself. I mean, like my level of expectation, I mean, could never have met like where I am now. I never could have guessed that I would have been here. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, so now, you signed up. This was like April of last year-ish when you initially signed up, and um, you dealt with some like obviously like personal stuff and family stuff and everything. When you first got started, even that were was like, a little bit of a roadblock. I know we spent the first couple of weeks, few weeks, kind of building your calories up, and then there was even like a probably a 2 to 3 week period where we kind of just like, I don't know if I wouldn't say like completely put things on pause, but like we did a little bit until we kind of ramped things up again.
Mhm.
Are you do you want to talk about, that kind of stuff or not? We can kind of just move
Yeah.
on or
No, I mean, no, that's okay. Because I mean, I think it is important to know, and that's something that I really appreciate about you and your program is like, the flexibility and the fact that you have a very realistic perspective and, like approach to life. I mean, because life is messy. And so, we're never going to have like, endless time to do things. I mean, things come up. So, I mean, I'm going through a divorce. So like that was like, one big thing that was happening. And then also, I lost my dad died in May of last year. So it was like a little over a month or so like after I started the program. And so, I mean, you know, being able to like, feel supported like with this program that I had invested in and committed to in the middle of, these life, I mean, they're not catastrophes, but I mean, it's, they're big things. Um, I mean, that was, huge for me. Because if I think there had been a different approach or like if I had felt like I couldn't take time that I needed, to be able to be flexible and adjust to some of those things and, modify, I don't think I would have, felt like I would have been able to do it.
Mhm.
Um, and like I guess just understanding again that, life isn't linear, it's not perfect, it's not, bump free. And it just, like having the, adjustments and again, the flexibility to just kind of like meet me where I'm at and, still continue to support me while, still like moving forward in these goals. I mean, that was a really big deal. So,
Yeah, because I think like when all that stuff happened, especially when your dad passed, we were just like, hey, let's just not even worry about tracking our food for now for like a week or two if you need it. Honestly, take the time you need, and then we'll kind of pick back up on that piece when you can, and maybe we can still go on some walks, for physical and mental health, during that time period if we can. Maybe we can still go to the gym a couple of times a week just to kind of like keep that because like some of these things are, hey, these are physical things we should be doing if we want to have a physical goal, but also these are things that help our mental health too. So doing some of that stuff can help you to kind of have, a sense of control when you're dealing with those kind of things in life and help you to kind of ease your mind and all the health benefits, mental health benefits that come with that. But we did like take the foot off the gas for sure when that happened. And then, as you're ready, kind of get back into it, which I find a lot of people kind of think that before signing up for something like this, they need to have like, okay, like I have 6 months where nothing's going on in my life. My life is perfect. So this is the perfect time for me to do this and I'll knock this out for 6 months and then, I'll get all the results, learn all the knowledge, learn all the information, and then I'm done. But like this is why and I call it a program all the time, but I don't really view it as like a program. Like in my head, when I think about a program, I think, okay, here's like a 12-week program to do, and then it's just over with when you're done. Where I think of this as more just like ongoing coaching and almost mentoring if you have a goal of changing your body composition long term. And it doesn't matter if it's a small goal, medium-sized goal, long-term goal, like you have that ongoing coaching with whatever pops up in your life and like you get advice and coaching on how to navigate those things while still, minimizing the amount of or the amount you might go backwards in your progress or maximizing the amount you still can go forward even regardless of like what's going on in your life. Because I've had a lot of clients who have lost, parents, have lost other family members who have gone through separations like this, who have lost their dogs, their pets, all of this stuff. The jobs have changed. They've lost their job, maybe even. And like this is just life. And that's why, like, thinking about this as whatever is going through in your life, like, you're going to know how to kind of squeeze the most juice out of that situation while, having somebody there for support that's going to be able to, give you some grace too when you need it. So was that surprising to you, like how that was on your side? Like, were you expecting, when you were dealing with the stuff with, your dad or the separation, were you dealing like expecting me to be like, well, here's the plan, like we need to do it anyway, or like was that, or maybe you expected, from talking to Rebecca that I would be like understanding, but I think some people think it's like, well, I just need to take a break entirely and I won't talk to you as a coach for like 3 weeks because I'm going through this because they feel like they're wasting my time if they're not being perfect. Like, I don't know, how did you feel during that? Was anything surprising that way?
I don't know if I had maybe any expectations necessarily of like how you would interact with me during that, but what I can say is that I like really appreciated it. Like, again, it's just I feel like you have a very good sense of like, being able to meet people where they're at, and you're not going to tell me that I have to be in the gym 7 days a week because that's just not realistic in my life. And I mean, you still have been like so like considerate and thoughtful and compassionate, like with sending messages and checking in, and like even around the holidays, you were like talking about how it's hard after you've lost a parent. Like I don't know if I really maybe could have expected the amount of like I don't know, like empathy. Like I think you do make it personal, and I really, I think that that's something that makes a huge difference too. Like I know that I'm not just like a number. I'm not logged into like some, I don't know, like, huge like program where there, like where you don't actually make any like personal connections. Like, and I think for me, like that's something that helps to motivate me personally and, makes me feel supported and just, like knowing that you take the time to, really kind of form these relationships and you care. And, so that, I mean, that makes a huge difference.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's tough because I think some people who've either done programs in the past, like other programs, or they've had even coaching in the past, a lot of times will like work with a coach where it's just strictly business of like,
Mhm.
here's your nutrition plan, here's your workout plan, here's your, I don't know, cardio plan, and like, okay, the goal is to get you progress no matter what, or like,
Mhm.
and that's all it is. And obviously, like, there is a line that like professionally shouldn't be crossed of like, I don't know, like there's a line of okay, like I'm your coach and I'm not necessarily like your best buddy, best friend, but there's is like a good friendship that does end up forming through all this too. And I think like people have experiences with those programs where it's just so just like I said, here's your nutrition plan, here's your meal plan, here's your workout plan, your personal life is your problem and like you deal with it and you find a way to hit these variables and they don't feel actually supported as a person. And I think that's why a lot of people end up failing, with those other coaches potentially. And then they think that's what coaching actually is across the board. And then they're like, well, you know, Joey's probably going to be the same as all these other coaches when they don't, you don't really know until you're actually in it that it is, different, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, so you we started off by kind of building your calories up a little bit before going into a fat loss phase. And
Mhm.
then we went through, a few fat loss phases leading into um like kind of Thanksgiving-ish was when we kind of ended our last fat loss phase.
I know.
So
It's been a while.
it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah.
So what were some of your like I guess thoughts that maybe surprised you about the process, whether it was like how the workouts were structured or how often you were doing them, or maybe with just the whole phase of building your calories up and then and anything even with the fat loss phases that was maybe surprising or new to you that you never really thought about in that way. I'm curious, like, was this like exactly what you expected in terms of the process, or were there some things like, oh, I never really thought like I could see results doing it this way?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's exactly that. Like, I don't think I would have if you told me that I would be like, eating more calories. And like, even in the fat loss phase, I'm not eating 1,200 calories. I'm not like starving myself to death. And I am only doing workouts 3 times a week. Like I really, I don't think I could have expected to see results from that. Like on paper, it doesn't seem like it would make sense. Um, and so it is, I mean, it has been like a, experiencing it to like believe it type of situation. I really, like for fat loss phase, I think usually I'm at like 1600 to like 1750 calories. I mean, and that sounds like a lot. I mean, and so no, I mean, I think like with what I had always viewed as like, the ways to lose weight, again, just being like super restrictive. I mean, that really kind of came as a total surprise. And I mean, also to just even like with my strength in the gym, I felt like the days that I told you that I could commit, which is 3 days a week. Um, I think I was hesitant. Like I didn't really think I could make it happen. And then all of a sudden, I start seeing like I have like little muscles. And then I'm like, what? And, and I don't know. Yes, I mean it's been wild. But
Hmm.
then also, kind of transitioning into like the muscle building phase too. Again, kind of like flipping that switch and like kind of trying not to fall back into old habits of, I mean, now I'm eating, it seems like an obscene number of calories. And you know, just like trusting that process, and you and I have talked about it too. It's different because it feels it's a slower part of the process than a fat loss phase. um you see results slower, and so like that one, I feel like you've had to help me through a little bit more, like psychologically, like yeah, we're still doing what we need to do here.
Yeah.
um so
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people like are surprised when I tell them because I get on calls with people and they ask like what the workout part looks like and how many hours I need to commit to working out and this and that. And I mean, I always tell them like we're gonna do it to what you have available and everything, but on average, probably three-fourths of my clients, maybe even more, they're just doing 3 days a week of lifting weights and then just a simple step goal where like they can get the walking in, going to the grocery store or playing with the kids or something. It's not where they have to be tied to like an elliptical or
mhm,
anything like that. And I think a lot of times they're surprised because they have been so used to like thinking they need to follow some kind of like 5 day a week cardio program with a bunch of like super intense hit workouts and all this jumping and burpees and stuff like that. Um, where that's not really the case. Like you don't have to. And it's a lot like I don't know if I would. Oh, I probably would say this. It's easier than what you probably think it is when you have like the right game plan in front of you and the right support to consistently follow that game plan. If
yeah.
you're on your own trying to do this stuff, you're probably gonna second guess and think, well, I'm probably not doing enough exercise. I need to do more. Or like the scale weight fluctuated up 1 pound today, so I must be eating way too many calories and I need to, go down.
Yeah.
Um, but I think when you have the support and you have the game plan and you have the guidance to where you're confident in the game plan because oh, like I know, this coach knows what they're doing, then
Mhm.
you probably thought like if you were going to lose 30 pounds in your first 6 months of doing this, you probably thought you would have had to work harder than you actually did, I think.
Mhm.
Maybe like more intensely, maybe the consistency is higher than what you like thought you maybe would have had to be consistent with. But as far as the intensity of like how extreme your food is restricted or how extreme the workouts felt, I mean, would you agree with that? Like, do you think it feels less extreme than what or intense than what you thought you would have had to do to lose that weight?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, right, to think about losing 30 pounds in 6 months, I would have, thought I'd have to eat like 1,000 calories a day and, be doing 2 hours of cardio or every day or something. I mean, and that's where I say, like, I feel like I, it's not that I don't know if maybe saying that I undersold myself, but like, if I had an expectation or a guess, like I was way under, the bar of
Mhm.
like you know, what actually has happened with for what I have to put into it and the results that I've gotten.
Yeah. And I think also a lot of people feel that way too, is because they have this benchmark in their head of, okay, well, when I was doing this on my own, and I struggled with inconsistency,
Mhm.
this is the result I was getting in like a 2 week time span. So like now I'm going to do this program and now I'm just getting accountability. So I'm going to see those types of results, but for, multiple weeks in a row now. But they don't take into effect that the plan they probably were trying to do on their own probably wasn't really that great of a plan. So they're like comparing that level of results with what they would expect, with this, which obviously like when every ounce of like effort you put into is really focused into the few big things that actually make a difference, it makes such a huge difference in your progress.
Yeah.
Um, so we went through kind of a series of fat loss phases. Really, the first like I think 7-ish months that you were in the program with like maintenance breaks in between. Was that something that was like kind of a new concept to you too, of like purposely taking those breaks in between?
Yeah, it almost felt like a little like I was like, what do you mean? We're just gonna I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I think it's just like still that old mindset of thinking that it had to be um like one way this whole time, but it really is very dynamic. And I mean, the point, and as we've been talking more, is I mean, because it's meant to be dynamic. I mean, I won't stay in a fat loss phase for the next, 3 years. You know what I mean? And so it really like, trusting the learning to trust the process and trusting you really has been like, the key for me with like, trying to wrap my brain and like change my mindset of, how I thought I could make these things happen versus like the reality of how they can happen. Um, like just trying to I guess make those two things kind of come together a little bit more. But no, I mean, it has been surprising to like have, these maintenance breaks um, and it's also been nice and, because they're necessary too. You know, so especially around the holidays, it was really nice to be in the maintenance phase. Have
Yeah.
a little bit more leeway. So
Yeah, for sure. So many people try, like if they have a goal to lose 30 pounds, they try to lose it, and like 6 months straight without taking any kind of like breaks from their fat loss phases. I mean, most people aren't planning out their fat loss phase and saying, I'm going to eat this amount, and then adjusting it from there anyway. But um, they just think, well, I'm gonna eat healthier, so I'm gonna eat less calories in that way, just indirectly. I'm gonna cut my food intake in half, so I'm eating less calories indirectly, and I'm just gonna do that and grind through it as much as I can until I see this weight come off. But they don't have those like purposeful periods of, putting the foot on the gas a little bit in a fat loss phase, and then purposeful periods of, letting up on the gas a little bit to go into a maintenance phase and giving your body the physiological break that it needs, and also the mental, like psychological break
mhm.
from the little bit of extra hunger you might experience in there. And it makes such a big difference. And then for you, because the awesome progress you saw, we were able to, like in November, go into a really like more long-term maintenance slash muscle building phase, because we got to a point where you're down like 30 pounds and it was like we don't like, for one, it was the holidays. So like during the holidays, if we can set clients up to maintain their weight during that time and bring calories up and increase food, like we're going to do that if the timeline like works out well, because it's so convenient, like you said, and so practical to just not be trying to lose fat or be in a fat loss phase over the holidays. But you also, not only with the holidays, but also like you had gotten just completely jacked and lean by that point where it was like, okay, I don't know if we really need to even like push to lose that much more body fat right now, at least, or we don't have to rush it to where like we're trying to, force ourselves to lose fat over the holidays. Let's transition our calories higher, start going into like a purposeful muscle building phase, and then, plan a fat loss phase kind of in the spring, like leading into the summer, to kind of trim things up a little bit more. And you had kind of talked about that was like a different challenge mentally, just doing that versus the fat loss phase. Kind of tell me a little bit about that, because I already know like a lot of the mental and psychological things that people kind of struggle with when they transition from fat loss to, oh, now I actually don't need to lose fat for a long period of time. But kind of tell me how you felt like in that phase transitioning and kind of the past 4 months, like what kind of mental struggles maybe you went through
Mhm.
with that shift in that type of goal.
Well, I think one of the things too that we've talked about, and like for me, that kind of does keep coming up, and it's much improved, but sort of like that fear of failure, or like the self criticism, for me that still pops up. And I will say, I mean, it's so much better, but like there is still an element, like I have days or moments where I struggle, you know, like am I doing well enough? Am I doing what I'm supposed to? Am I going to keep making progress? And so, um, in the maintenance phase, I think, because again, it's slower progress, with like building muscle. I think it like those elements sometimes do pop up a little bit more. Like am I increasing my weights enough? Am I increasing my reps enough? Am I um, because you do just like see it a little bit less. And then I mean, really like I think, and that again with the coaching, what I appreciate so much is like I feel like they're very grounding because you'll put my pictures side by side and you'll be like, okay, look, like look at this muscle definition change, like this week compared to like, before your maintenance phase. And so, I mean, like being able to like, I guess have some of that, data in front of me with, your analysis of it, has been super helpful. Um, I really, I have enjoyed having a little bit more leeway with, like the calories and, um, I think, in general with the program, one of the hardest things for me is like the food tracking. It probably is, one of the things that I dislike the least. And I think it's, I mean, it's so important, obviously. Um, and so I think I have struggled a little bit more with like I think my consistency has been a little bit less in this maintenance phase, with my tracking. And so that's been a little bit of a struggle too. But uh you've been able to help shift my mindset too with some of those. It's not just like a free for all, and just like really trying to kind of tune back into like you know meeting those goals.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just working on that consistency.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think like your consistency with tracking over this maintenance phase, it's been sufficient for us to achieve the goal that we're trying to achieve during this time period, which is just to slowly build a little bit of muscle, more muscle on our frame,
Mhm.
and also like part of this kind of maintenance or long-term like muscle building phase we've done over the past 4 months has been to like indirectly maybe not be as on point with our tracking too to prevent us from getting so burnt out too. So
Mhm.
there are periods where want to be like really dialed in,
Mhm.
like details all checked off with like, okay, 90% or plus of my food is really being tracked accurately. And
Mhm.
that's kind of when you're in a fat loss phase. But when you work with a coach long term and you're able to go through like maintenance phases, especially like a long maintenance phase like this, it's so helpful because now we're tackling some of those habits or behaviors or even just mindset
Mhm.
um, shifts that you need in that maintenance phase. Because eventually there will be a point where, I mean, you're kind of here, but like other people listening, if you have 40 or 50 pounds you want to lose, there's going to be a point where you get to a weight or body composition where like there's really not that much more that you need to or really want to
Mhm.
necessarily lose.
Mhm.
And you have to learn how to not be so just like, you know, pushing everything 100%,
Right.
like you do in a fat loss phase. You need to know how to like be more flexible, push things
Mhm.
at maybe 75%, but still know how to at least maintain your body weight while doing that. And I think that's why so many people lose weight and then gain it back right away, is
Right.
because they don't have support during those long maintenance periods once they like maybe reach most of their goal,
Mhm.
or they like have support in the fat loss phase. They lose, the 30 pounds in 6 months, and they're like, well, I've reached my finish line. So now I don't need to be coaching with Joey or, have a coach anymore. And then
Right.
they stop and they don't have somebody there to deal with these feelings of like, oh, I think I'm being too flexible with my food
Mhm.
tracking. So I think I'm overeating a little bit, and somebody to keep them like quote unquote in check there, but also they don't have somebody to kind of tell them it's okay to be a little bit more flexible too. And then if they don't have that person to be like that voice in their ear, then they feel like they're already starting to fail because they're not doing the exact things they did in the fat loss phase. And then they
Right.
start to feel guilty about that. And then they spiral.
Mhm.
So, like, this has been a really nice phase, I think, for us to work through all of those aspects of like, realizing it's okay to take our foot off the gas a little bit when we're kind of in that maintenance phase, especially like in a muscle building phase. Also, it's okay to um, uh, just not have to see the scale go down to feel like we're making progress. Like
Right.
it's okay to like looking for those other areas of measuring progress of like your strength and how, your muscle mass might be changing or, maybe your clothes fitting in different ways, like, noticing your hamstrings or your glutes popping out more, which I know like you've mentioned that a couple times, I think too. So like it's just it's a different phase, a different kind of mental battle and struggle than what you deal with at fat loss phase, which is why like I love working with clients long term for at least a year minimum, but honestly like even longer because we're able to work through all those things that you need to be able to work through to actually see progress like actually long term and maintain it long term versus just in a short 6 month period.
Right. Well, right, because it's not realistic to think about like being in a fat loss phase for forever. So at some point, like as I'm, or like, when coaching does at some point come to an end, like how do I maintain this? And so, getting these skills right now is like crucial. So,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think how the fat loss phase was is how they like will have to eat and live the rest of their life with which a lot of those behaviors you want to keep, right?
Mhm.
Like the general
Right.
food choices you make, fruits and vegetables, lean meats, common sense healthy foods, the
Yeah.
exercise portion, like you probably want to still be lifting weights, 3 times a week, even in maintenance. You probably still want to be going on walks,
Mhm.
frequently, just to keep that movement up. But the exact like calorie number that you eat in a fat loss phase does not have to be the same in a maintenance phase. And it shouldn't be, or
Right.
else you're actually going to be like quote unquote under eating for too
Mhm.
long of a period of time and run into issues there. Um, so it's been good. And now we're gearing up to start another fat loss phase like next week, basically, or I guess tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Uh-oh.
which has been like the
Here we
first
go.
one in 4 months. So like this past 4 months, you were probably getting sick of like eating so much food, maybe. And now, starting tomorrow,
Yeah.
you're gonna maybe realize, man, I kind of took that a little bit for granted of being able to eat. Not that we're gonna, go down to 1,000 calories or something, but um, you get used to like eating that much food, and you're like, wow, like maintenance feels really good. And then you go into a fat loss phase again, and you're like, yeah, it's gonna be really exciting seeing your body get leaner and stuff, but you're gonna be like, oh, like I kind of miss having those few extra calories there.
Yeah, it'll be a transition. But I mean, the thing was, honestly, when I transitioned into maintenance, at first I was like, I can't eat this number of calories that I'm supposed to eat. Like I almost like struggled because I was like full and very satiated. And you were like, it's really important. We have to try. So I'm sure I'll, have some transition, little sticker shock,
Yeah.
maybe for a week. But
But also, like, because you've had such a long break, you're
mhm.
mentally and physically probably going to feel like, well, one, mentally, you're going to feel just like excited to go into a fat loss phase again, probably. Like, it's been so long, and now I get to see my body get leaner again and kind of reveal the muscle you've built over the past 4 months. But then also, physiologically, your body is going to probably respond so well to it compared to if we were to just try to like push through and the fat loss phase for the past like year straight without taking that break. So like there's going to be so many benefits because we took that long break to build muscle through the past 4 months. Um, so
I'm excited.
obviously we talked about you're down roughly a little over 20 pounds now, lost like 30 pounds total, and then we built some more or gained a little bit of weight over the muscle building phase slightly. But
Mhm.
um, what are some other kind of changes you've seen over the past, 11 months, whether it's some kind of like mental or psychological change in yourself, things that you noticed of how you, show up, within yourself, or like specific physical things that you've noticed changes? And I know you were always in your check-in form you're always very like I don't want to talk myself up too much. I don't want to feel too self-centered. So I don't want to like, but I want you to do the opposite. I want you to brag about like how good you feel
Oh,
now.
gosh.
Because you deserve it. You deserve to celebrate, where you are now.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. I mean, honestly, like sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, is this really like me? Like I almost don't even some days like, like recognize myself. Like I again, I never really could have guessed that I would have been able to make, some of these changes. And well, I actually so like yesterday I threw away my old jeans from, over a year ago. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw them away because they don't fit. I don't know. I mean, that felt really good. Like, I don't know, like kind of, I don't know, like releasing that. Like, I'm not gonna hang on to them in case I gain this weight back or whatever. It was, I don't know. So that like that felt really good. Um, the psychological changes, I mean, one, I don't think I had any idea about like how like mentally like clarifying and sort of almost like detoxifying like workouts are. Like I feel the best when I walk out of the gym. Like I feel like fresh and like I can deal with anything. And like I have days, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we've talked about like life is not perfect, like that feeling might not last, for the rest of the week. It might only be a few minutes, but it's like, I don't know, it's like a purge. Um, and I mean, I like look forward to it. Like, I'm like, when's my next gym day? Or, if I'm struggling with something or something comes up, I'm like, I'm wanting to like get into the gym to be able to work it out. And that, like, for me was very unexpected. I mean, I really kind of thought it would just be, like the workouts would be something that I had to do to kind of get the result that I wanted. And now it's kind of like that's what I want is like that time. Um, I mean, I want the results and I'm excited about it and I still want to make progress, but like the level of appreciation that I have for like the journey was an unexpected bonus. Um, I I feel like you were asking me something else. You wanted me to talk about my physical changes.
Yeah, just like
Well,
like I mean, you already mentioned a couple of those things, like the jeans that you were getting rid of, but like what else? Like I know there's a couple that I have in my head that I remember, but like yeah, what kind of other physical changes have you seen or things you've been able to do now physically or wear now physically that like you wouldn't have been able to do, 11 months ago?
well, I mean, I do actually remember like the first day that because I go to the gym after work usually, and I packed a pair of like tighter pants, and I was like in looking at myself in the mirror in the gym, going, "Oh my God, like, can I actually like walk out there and like work out in these pants?" Like, I was just so, I almost felt like I don't know. And now I'm like, I want to live in these gym pants. I love them. I like can look at myself and think like, oh, hey, like I've got like halfway decent legs. Like, like I don't know. It's just some of those things. And one of my goals was even like to wear a tank top into the gym. Like, you said, hey, we have to set goals. What do you want to do? And I was like, I guess maybe wear a tank top. And like that was I had to like only pack that as my only option that day because otherwise I like chickened out. And now I'm like, I don't know. I feel so much more comfortable. Um, I don't know, like those things are really like, I don't know, pretty wild. But and okay, so this part might also sound dumb, but like a lot of like the change that I see is even like some of the dynamic in the gym. Like I don't know, like when you go to the gym and you see those people and you're like, hey, they were like around this machine. Maybe I'll check and see if they've been using it before I get on it. And like people do that to me now, like they'll kind of be like, hey, were you on that? And I'm kind of like, I don't know, like for me, that like mental shift of, um, I don't know, like just like being somebody who's there, who's showing up, like, I don't know, like I don't really know how to describe it, but like those things to me feel like victories kind of like, you know, um, I don't really know how
Yeah,
to
I no, I know exactly what you're
describe it.
describing. Just feeling like you, I guess, kind of like you belong there. Like this is who you are, and like other people kind of view you in that light too of, oh, like Nicole, she's a regular at the gym, she's experienced at the gym, and just knowing that other people see you in that light help, like it boosts your confidence because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like I actually am, because we all have self-doubt sometimes. And
Right.
um like even like with me, with whether it's like my physical goals or even my goals as being a coach, like when I was growing my coaching business and roster and everything, like there's always that piece of you that looks at other people or looks at other coaches and thinks, oh, they're so much farther ahead than you. But then like somebody messages me and they're like, man, it looks like your clients are doing really well and like your business is going really well. Like how did you do this? And then you're like, oh, like I actually am farther along than what I think. So it's kind
Yeah.
of, I think that you're kind of describing that dynamic of, you know, like you go into the gym and you see these groups of people and you think, okay, like these are the like regulars, here are the more experienced people, here are the newbies, here are the people who are maybe a little bit more self-conscious. And you kind of, maybe when you started this, you were in that group of people like a little self-conscious, felt like a newbie, and now you've kind of climbed that ladder in a sense. And it's not like you're competing against other people or putting other people below you, but you feel like, oh, I've showed up here, 3 times a week consistently for this many weeks. I'm comfortable here. It feels like maybe even like a second home to me now. I know you've mentioned like you've made different friends and stuff in the gym now too, and I think you've mentioned that they've like asked if you were a bodybuilder or something before too. Probably the day you wore your tank top, but
Yeah.
like those types of things, it, like you said, it boosts your confidence because you're like, oh, like people see me as this person. And then when people are kind of looking up to you in that way, and like kind of indirectly forces you to continue to show up in that way too, because you like really take that as a part of your identity. And when something becomes a part of your identity, it becomes really hard to shake. Like those behaviors become really hard to shake. Like with me being a coach, like if I were to just stop working out or stop paying attention to my nutrition or tracking my nutrition entirely, it would be like really hard if I were to do that long term. Like, sure, I have some breaks here and there where I don't track my food sometimes, but long term, it'd be so hard because like I've taken on this identity as a fitness and nutrition coach, and like I know, you guys as clients kind of maybe in a way look up to me in a sense of like what I do. So like it just reinforces, which is why also the more you share your journey with people, the more it helps you to keep those behaviors going too, because other people are seeing like what you're doing, and it helps you to take on that identity a little bit more too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, honestly, like even with, like when you sign up with your program and you ask, like, are you comfortable with like sharing your pictures or like showing your face and adding your name and things? And I mean, I said yes, even though I was like very uncomfortable with it. Um, but I think it is important. Like, I mean, you have to be able to see that, like, it is possible and we can only start from where we are. And, right. I mean, like being able to see other people's journey is like it's so inspiring. And um, I think like honestly, like even thinking about the fact that like I may have helped to like encourage other people is really like kind of overwhelming in a sense. I mean, it just I mean, it feels really good. It does help, with the motivation and stuff too. But I just, because it isn't we can inspire each other, and I get so much from from other people. And so those things do help to kind of take me out of my comfort zone, I guess, with like sharing some things about myself too that like normally I would be like not not excited to do. But I mean, it's
Mhm.
really, I think it is, I see how important it is.
Yeah, for sure. Because you've inspired a lot of people to do this, and you've directly like referred or had conversations with probably at least 3 people who have joined coaching now, and they've been in coaching for 6 months and they're down 20 pounds now too. And like they wouldn't have probably taken that leap. Maybe they would have, but maybe not. And if you weren't comfortable sharing your journey and like putting yourself out there. Like Michelle, she was one like directly I can think of.
Yeah.
Um, Another one, Allison, I believe, and she's down like 20 pounds too. And like it's just it's just crazy. And it makes you feel really good, like you said, because everybody likes to feel good about helping other people and knowing that they helped someone else feel better. And so like when you're kind of deciding on like, do you want to share your journey? Do you want to put yourself out there? A lot of people think of it more of like a self thing of like, I don't want to feel like I'm bragging or I don't want to like put myself out there because I'm going to feel insecure or self-conscious, which is fine if you don't want to, but you're missing out on like the bigger picture of you could inspire like just one other person to do something good for themselves, which then um can lead to them improving their health and improving their life, and then them maybe even doing the same for someone else. And it's like you could impact, 100 or so people indirectly by just you sharing your journey. And not only that, like I said, you get a benefit from it because now it starts to become more of your identity, and you kind of get that nudge of like, like I know I inspired, Allison to take this leap, and I'm not really feeling like going to the gym, but I know that she's kind of like she's seen my progress, and that kind of like I don't know, it kind of pushes you a little bit, like subconsciously to like I know people are gonna kind of wonder how I'm doing, and I want to like do it for myself, but also like to help inspire other people too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a level of accountability there too, I think. Like, like um maintaining this like standard that, that I've chosen to set for myself, you
Yeah.
know, and continuing to show up for it.
Yeah. So tons of obviously huge physical and mental wins and
Yeah.
everything and changes. Um, what do you feel like was, I guess, the biggest thing, or like maybe if you can't pick one, maybe one or two big things that you think made the biggest impact of like getting to where you are now in this program versus like, I guess, other things that you've tried? Like what's different about like what got you to where you are now?
Oh man. I mean, really, I feel it's hard to narrow down because I just want to say like all of it. I mean, I feel like um I mean, I don't know if you didn't have like such a dynamic kind of holistic program, because that's like one thing about it too, is it's not, again, like, we talked about it being personal, but like you talk about more than like just calories and just steps and just, the workouts. Like it is, you ask about like stress and sleep and, like all of these things, like the fact that it's such a holistic approach, I think makes such a big difference, because you're addressing more than, even just like the basic physical aspect. If you're getting into stress and you're giving me tips on, like stress reduction, because that has an impact on like cortisol, or if I'm going to eat more ice cream this week, or you know what I mean, like um I mean, that's huge. I don't know. Narrowing down like one or two things is so hard. I mean, I do think like, the weekly check-ins, the level of accountability, I think is crucial. If, you gave me this on paper and said I'll see it in 6 months, I don't think I would be here either. So, um, the fact that it is like so consistent with accountability, I think is probably like one of the other biggest pieces that I would say, because you're able then to be dynamic and make adjustments and kind of work through some of these things, so that they aren't either a hindrance or, for those things that are like, working well, that we kind of keep moving forward in that direction.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think those are both great, and especially like the last point that you mentioned with like if I were to give you the exact plan. Like if I could kind of see even exactly how your body would respond week to week and see in the future and be like, okay, here's exactly what to eat, how much to eat, here's exactly how many steps to do, the exact workouts for the next 6 months or a year. And if you do these, you will get this result.
Mhm.
Like you said, you probably wouldn't have been able to do it because like having that human support, on a weekly basis, or even like, in the middle of the week, because we talked, a lot, through text and voice message, even between check-ins, with it, having that human support there on a frequent basis is so, so, so important, which is why like some people will like go and see people like in person, like through their, I don't know, insurance provider or something, and be like, oh, I'm gonna go see a session with them instead because my insurance covers it. And but it's
Mhm.
like those sessions you probably get like once a month, maybe once every 2 months. It's a very, a lot of times, generic assessment and like a generic recommendation. And even if it was a perfect plan for you for the next 2 months, you're probably not going to be able to execute it consistently in those 2 months because you don't have that support in between. So I
Mhm.
think that's like probably the big thing with, our coaching that I think is maybe like the most important thing is just how how consistently and how frequent the check-ins are, but then also like in between check-ins, you being able to like reach out for support and a pep talk or a mindset talk or this or that when like you might be having some doubts, or maybe you are dealing with something personal and we, have to adjust things on the spot because of that or whatever. Like that is probably the most valuable piece, I think, of all of this, because without, that human connection, doesn't matter how perfect the plan is, like you probably won't be able to execute it on your own.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um,
Agree totally.
so as we, I don't even know how long we've been doing this because I know we like started a little bit later
I
because
know.
of the tech issue. But as we just kind of wrap up, I guess, what would you say to somebody who, has been on the fence or is maybe listening to this and thinking about, joining or signing up? Like, and especially for you, like you've had such a good perspective in both ways because you had an opportunity to sign up and then, you didn't and ended up signing up like a year later and now did. So you kind of see what it's like to say no, I guess, and then also see what it's like to say yes, at the same time. So I guess, like, what would you say to somebody who, is in that position?
I would say like you're never going to regret like taking this chance to invest in yourself. And um I really and I feel like I've said it and I can't quite like find the right words for it, but like I never could have expected like all of the things that I got from this. I mean, I started out with like one simple goal and it has now changed into like, this like dynamic process that like I love. And it is not just about like, losing weight. It's about like, kind of finding myself and, a journey of loving myself. And you're not going to regret it. um yeah, I feel like kind of like facing those fears and making this level of a commitment will create change that you could not have expected. So I would say do it fast.
Yeah. No, I love that, especially like you said at the end, you taking that leap in actually making the commitment is what also like gets you to actually do the thing too. It's really easy to commit to like really short-term programs or really low cost programs because you're like, well, it's, a small commitment. So if I fail, then like it's not a big deal. But because it's not a big deal if I fail, then that's why you don't follow through with them, even if they are effective.
Yeah.
So, like, not saying you just, make this huge commitment, throw away a bunch of money just to get you to take action, but a lot of times, like, doing that is what actually, like, the thing that's causing you the fear is like what actually will then fuel you once you do jump in and commit to actually do the things you need to do to get the result that you want.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
don't short sell yourself. It's just um and I would say like be ready to like be surprised by the process and like by what else you find. I mean, it's again, I started out with like one little goal and then it has changed so much. And so really like big picture, it's been an amazing journey. So
yeah.
I love it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much for doing this, Nicole. Glad we
Yeah,
were finally able to do this. Third time's a charm. So,
I know.
uh, uh, yeah. And I'm sure if anybody has any questions about the program, you probably feel comfortable them like messaging you. I would assume.
Yeah.
If not, you can just not answer them and that's okay. Like, I mean, it's totally fine. It's your time. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, you've inspired so many other people to like take the leap and now they've seen some awesome transformations themselves. So, I'm sure you'll inspire, at least one other person too.
That makes me so happy. I mean, it really, it's been awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we will kind of wrap this up here and we will see you guys in the next one then.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Joey.